Did high-stakes Iran and America talks in Islamabad come dangerously close to breaking down into a physical confrontation between top officials? Why did tensions escalate so rapidly within just 21 hours of what were meant to be peace negotiations in Pakistan? Did disputes over Iran's critical oil artery, the Strait of Hormuz, push both sides' top diplomats to the brink?
Warship in your vicinity.
And did a simultaneous naval standoff between the U.S. Navy and IRGC forces at sea further inflame tempers during the talks? Fresh details have emerged, shedding light on the sequence of events that unfolded during the high-stakes summit between the United States and Iran. Reports indicate that tensions escalated between Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi and U.S. envoy Steve Witkoff during the discussions. According to multiple accounts, the two officials came close to a physical confrontation at the Islamabad summit held on April 11th. Turkish media reports suggested that disagreements over conditions related to the Strait of Hormuz were a major source of friction. Within just 21 hours, negotiations between Iran and the United States in Pakistan rapidly deteriorated and broke down. U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance stated that no agreement was reached because Iran declined to accept what he described as a final offer. He added that a central point of disagreement was Iran's reluctance to halt aspects of its nuclear program.
Nick Robertson from CNN. Precisely what have they rejected here? Can you help us understand it a little bit?
Well, I won't go into all the details because I don't want to negotiate in public after we negotiated for 21 hours in private. But the simple fact is that we need to see an affirmative commitment that they will not seek a nuclear weapon, and they will not seek the tools that would enable them to quickly achieve a nuclear weapon. That is the core goal of the President of the United States, and that's what we've tried to achieve through these negotiations. Again, their nuclear program, such as it is, the enrichment facilities that they had before, they've been destroyed. But the simple question is, do we see a fundamental commitment of will for the Iranians not to develop a nuclear weapon, not just now, not just 2 years from now, but for the long term? We haven't seen that yet. We hope that we will. Jen.
Was there a framework on anything? And also, did the Iranian frozen assets come up? And did you reach any conclusions on those frozen assets?
We talked about all those issues, Jen, and we talked about a number of issues beyond that. And so certainly those things came up. But again, we just could not get to a situation where the Iranians were willing to accept our terms. I think that we were quite flexible. We were quite accommodating. The president told us, you need to come here in good faith and make your best effort to get a deal. We did that. And unfortunately, we weren't able to make any headway. Preston.
Mr. Vice President, how often did you communicate with President Trump throughout the negotiations? There were reports that there were multiple rounds, where there were breaks in between negotiations. How often did you communicate with the president throughout those rounds, and what was he saying as you were going through these negotiations that you said fell short?
Yeah, obviously we were talking to the president consistently. I don't know how many times we talked to him, a half dozen times, a dozen times over the past 21 hours. We obviously also talked to Admiral Cooper, to Pete, to Marco, to the entire national security team. We talked to Scott Bessent a number of times. So look, we were constantly in communication with the team because we were negotiating in good faith. And we leave here with a very simple proposal, a method of understanding that is our final and best offer. We'll see if the Iranians accept it. Thank you.
Iranian media reports indicated that the removal of enriched uranium and the reopening of the Strait of Hormuz were key sticking points. Outlets such as Tasnim News suggested that what were described as excessive U.S. demands hindered progress toward an agreement. Iran's parliament speaker, who was part of the negotiating delegation, also criticized the United States following the collapse of talks. The Iranian parliament speaker said, and I quote, "Before the negotiations, I emphasized that we have the necessary good faith and will, but due to the experiences of the two previous wars, we have no trust in the opposing side." My colleagues on the Iranian delegation at Menab 168 raised forward-looking initiatives. But the opposing side ultimately failed to gain the trust of the Iranian delegation in this round of negotiations. America has understood our logic and principles, and now it's time for it to decide whether it can earn our trust or not. We consider every mirror to be another method of authority diplomacy, alongside military struggle, for upholding the rights of the Iranian nation, and we will not for a moment cease our efforts to consolidate the achievements of the 40 days of Iran's national defense. I am also grateful for the efforts of our friendly and brotherly country, Pakistan, in facilitating the process of these negotiations, and I send my regards to the people of Pakistan. Iran is a body with 90 million souls, from all the heroic people of Iran who, following the advice of the supreme leader and by taking to the streets, supported their children and sent us on our way with their blessings. For this, I am grateful, and to my colleagues in these intense 21-hour negotiations, I say, well done. God strengthen you. Long live and enduring be our dear Iran. End quote. Meanwhile, parallel developments were unfolding at sea as diplomatic talks continued in Pakistan on April 11th. 2 U.S. naval destroyers reportedly attempted to transit the Strait of Hormuz during this period. According to the Wall Street Journal, these movements were met with resistance from IRGC naval units operating in the area. Iranian forces reportedly issued warnings to the U.S. vessels, signaling escalating tensions during the encounter. A message attributed to the IRGC described the warning as a final notice directed at the approaching ships.
U.S. Navy warship 121. This is Sepah Navy Station. You must alter course and go back to the Indian Ocean immediately. If you don't obey my order, you will be targeted. Out.
This is Coalition Warship 121, engaged in transit passage in accordance with international law. No challenge is attended to you.
U.S. Navy warship transiting in the vicinity of Fujairah Port and Oman Sea. This is Sepah Navy. This is Sepah Navy. Last warning, last warning, last warning.
U.S. Close to High Island Port.
Attention all vessels, attention all vessels, attention all vessels in Oman Sea. This is Iranian Sepah Navy. If you see any warship in your vicinity, keep a distance more than 10 miles from them, because I'm ready to open fire on them.
Shortly afterward, U.S. Central Command stated that the vessels were engaged in efforts to ensure access through the strait. However, Iranian media sources claimed that the U.S. ships were compelled to change course following the maritime standoff.